So for this last example, we've got a word problem, okay? Ling is designing a poster. The top of the poster is 4 inches long and the rest of the poster is 2 inches longer than the width. If the poster requires 616 square inches of poster board, we want to find the width W of the poster. Okay, so here are our dimensions. W is our width, and then we have W plus 2 plus 4 is our length. So we know my width is W, and then I know my length is going to be W plus 2 plus 4. Obviously, we can combine like terms and write that as W plus 6. Okay? And to find your area of a rectangle, remember, area is always length times width. Okay? And I'm going to rewrite this as length times width equals area. Okay? So I've got my length times my width. So I'm going to rewrite it as width times length. So W times the quantity of W plus 6 equals 616. Now, you may be tempted to try to set W equals 616 and W plus 6 equals 616. You cannot do that because we can only do that when one side equals 0. So to do this, first thing I'm going to distribute, okay? I get W squared plus 6W equals 616. And now I know I need one side to equal 0. So I'm going to subtract 616 from each side. And I get W squared plus 6W minus 616 equals 0. Now that one side equals 0, I have a quadratic trinomial, so I'm going to factor it. Last term is negative, which means I know I'm going to have one positive term, and I'm going to have one negative term. So now, I need to think of something that multiplies to equal 616, where one is positive and one is negative, that will add to 6W. Okay? You'd have to play around with this a little bit. Okay? You would find that it would be positive 28 and negative 22. Okay? 28 times 22 is 616. 28 minus 22 gives me the positive 6W I want. Now, since we have two things multiplied together that equal 0, I can know that either of them would equal 0. So I'm going to have two solutions. So here, in the first one, I subtract 28 from each side. I get W equals negative 28. Second one, I add 22 to each side. And I get W equals 22. And you may be thinking, okay, of course I have two answers. Wrong. This negative 28 is not allowed to be an answer. That doesn't mean we did the work wrong. It just means it's not a possible answer for this word problem. The reason being, you cannot have a negative width. So even though we got two answers numerically, okay, we had two numbers, there's only one answer that actually makes sense in our word problem. Okay? Because it doesn't make sense to have a negative width. So when we solve this, we found W can only equal 22, which means the width of the poster would be 22 inches. Okay? A lot of steps, okay? But setting it up wasn't so bad. You had to solve and get it into a trinomial. Once you have it in a trinomial equals 0, we can solve by factoring, and we eliminated our negative answer because it did not make sense to have a negative width. That's all there is for this lesson, mainly just focusing on factoring these trinomials, okay? And then remembering our formula, if C is positive, you should know how to set these up. If C is negative, you should know how to set these up. Okay, remember that was, I think, in example 3 where we talked about the 3 different ways to set these up. Let me know if you have any questions.